Is Pagasa Island part of Philippines' 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone? Well, Pagasa Island is located 270 nautical miles, around 500 kilometers from the province of Palawan, which is beyond the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. However, with its permanent civilian population and its solid landmass, which strengthens the country's territorial claims and legal presence, making it as part of Philippines' offshore territory. Under international law, it generates its own territorial sea of 12 nautical miles from its shoreline. Here are the facts about Pagasa Island, KALAYAAN Group of Island, and the Spratlys Island. Spratly Islands are a large group of reefs, shoals, atolls, and small islets in the South China Sea. They are located north of insular Malaysia and are roughly midway between Vietnam and the Philippines, and they are claimed, wholly or in part, by several countries in the region. While the KALAYAAN Group of Islands are occupied features of the Philippines, and the Spratlys Island is part of the municipality of KALAYAAN, an administrative division of Palawan, the westernmost province of the Philippines facing the South China Sea. It is not synonymous to what is internationally known as the Spratlys, because Spratlys has more features which are not part of the KALAYAAN Group of Islands. These group of island is composed of over 130 features, including 7 islands and 2 reefs occupied by the Philippines. The main features include Pagasa Island, which is the largest, and the islands of Lawak, Pinag Island, Likas Island, Kota Island, Panada Island, Parola Island, and the reefs of Ayungin and Rizal Reef. It has a total area of only 290 square kilometers, or about 112 square miles. While the Spratlys are spread out over a vast area of ocean measuring some 409,000 square kilometers, or 158,000 square miles, a great number of them are submerged. Of the 12 main naturally occurring islets, the largest is the 90-acre, 36-hectare Taiping Island, controlled by Taiwan. The Philippines controlled the T2 Island, called locally as Pagasa Island, having an area of 37.2 hectares, 92 acres. The Spratly Island, or Storm Island, measures 15 hectares, 37 acres, is controlled by Vietnam. Vietnam occupies the highest number of features in the Spratly Islands, controlling at least 21 positions that now all contain artificial land. While Vietnam holds the most locations, China has historically created the largest total area of artificial land and occupies 7 major reefs, all of which have been heavily militarized and turned into artificial islands. Though current reports indicate Vietnam is on track to match or surpass China's reclamation scale, the Philippines occupies 9 main islands, claims most of the group as the KALAYAAN Island Group. Malaysia occupies 5 features close to its territory in the southeastern part of the archipelago, while Taiwan only occupies Taiping Island, or Itu Aba, the largest naturally occurring feature in the Spratlys. Vietnam has rapidly accelerated its island building efforts. As of March 2025, it had created roughly 70% as much artificial land as China. By early 2026, all 21 of its occupied rocks and low tide elevations featured artificial land, up from just 11 locations with minor structures 4 years prior. China's 7 outposts in the Spratlys, Quarteron, Fiery Cross, Gavin, Hughes, Johnson South, Mischief, and Subi Reefs are fully militarized with runways, radar systems, and munitions storage. China also maintains a constant Coast Guard presence at unoccupied features like Scarborough Shoal to exercise de facto control. The Philippine government is upgrading defense capabilities and fortifying its position in the West Philippine Sea, with Pagasa serving as a critical staging ground, increasing its military presence on the island as part of a broader strategy to fortify its occupation in the KALAYAAN Island Group. The Philippines formally annexed Pagasa, which is also known as T2 Island, as its westernmost territory in 1978. At just 37 hectares, roughly the size of 52 FIFA soccer fields, the feature may seem like just another tiny speck in the West Philippine Sea, Manila's designation for the South China Sea waters within the country's exclusive economic zone. Yet Pagasa's location astride key maritime trade routes give it immense strategic importance. particularly against the backdrop of the territorial disputes and the intensifying US-China geopolitical rivalry. Although a 2016 ruling by an international tribunal invalidated China's sovereignty claims over most of the South China Sea, Beijing has ignored the decision, doubling down instead on its claims to virtually the entire waterway by accelerating the construction of artificial islands, militarizing them, and maintaining a large maritime presence in the area. This explains why Pagasa, meaning hope in Tagalog, is surrounded by an armada of Chinese vessels. This includes a mix of Navy, Coast Guard, and maritime militia assets that are often so close to the shore that they are clearly visible to the naked eye. Chinese militia ships were regularly spotted surrounding Pagasa Island while entering inside its territorial sea at one point. Having had an effective occupation and control over it, Manila asserts sovereignty within the 12 nautical miles territorial sea of Pagasa Island, which is beyond the West Philippine Sea. Despite this, Pagasa Island became the seat of the Kalayaan town in Palawan province, being the biggest maritime feature in Kalayaan Island Group that is home to some 400 locals, troops, law enforcers, and civilian government personnel. Pagasa is in a dangerous neighborhood. It's one of the numerous features in the Spratly Archipelago claimed by several countries, with Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan also competing over sovereignty and control of parts of these strategic waters. China's military base at Subi Reef, equipped with gun batteries, missile shelters, advanced radars, and hangars for fighter aircraft, is only about 22 kilometers away. Other facilities, such as those on Mischief Reef and Fiery Cross, aren't far off either. From these and other nearby bases, aircraft, boats, and unmanned systems are regularly deployed to monitor activities on Pagasa and nearby features. Beijing began conducting rapid and large-scale reclamation projects on 7 Spratly features around 2014. Fast forward 11 years, and China now controls a network of military bases that have dramatically improved its intelligence, reconnaissance, and surveillance capabilities, while also allowing it to forward deploy, sustain, and resupply aircraft and warships patrolling the area. Pagasa is at the gateway of China's expansionist ambitions both in the West Philippine Sea and the rest of the South China Sea. While China's military presence could theoretically be used to enforce an Air Defense Identification Zone (ADIZ) over these waters, its bases, including those on the Paracel Islands farther north, are more commonly used to assert de facto control over strategic locations, including fishing grounds and hotspots such as Scarborough Shoal and Second Thomas Shoal, known in the Philippines as Bajo de Masinloc and Ayungin Shoal, respectively. These two features in particular have seen a surge in Chinese maritime activity in recent weeks, as the number of incidents, from collisions at sea to dangerously close aerial encounters, continues to rise, with neither side willing to back down. Maintaining a military outpost on Pagasa, the Philippine government has been upgrading its defenses, including through infrastructure projects such as a sheltered port, a beaching ramp, an aircraft hangar, a Philippine Coast Guard station, and an improved airstrip that can accommodate military cargo aircraft. Pagasa serves as a critical staging ground for the defense and security of our country, as it affords us strategic depth. Trinidad said, it provides Manila with a buffer zone from mainland Palawan. Pagasa is a part of Palawan province, the capital of which sits nearly 600 kilometers from Manila. The importance of the Pagasa Island to the Philippines lies in its strategic location in the South China Sea, its permanent civilian population, and its solid landmass, which strengthens the country's territorial claims and legal presence. Under international law, it generates its own territorial sea, of 12 nautical miles from its shoreline. The island is located just west of Loida Bank and only 14.4 miles east of Subi Reef, a heavily militarized island of China. Analysts have warned that increased air traffic in Pagasa Island could increase the risk of collisions between Chinese and Philippine military aircraft, where China has developed its own 7 outposts in the Spratlys. It built a 3,200-hectare network of man-made island, heavily militarized bases in the South China Sea. In 2025, China continues to militarize the Spratly Islands, with fully operational naval and air bases, including airstrips capable of handling advanced bombers on several islands. Specifically, Fiery Cross Reef, Subi Reef, and Mischief Reef are key locations with airstrips that allow China to project air power and potentially threaten other claimants in the South China Sea. With 3,000-meter runways on Fiery Cross Reef and Subi Reef, with Mischief Reef also having a cleared area for potential runway construction. These airstrips are strategically important as they allow China to deploy advanced aircraft, including nuclear-capable bombers, and extend their reach over the South China Sea, potentially impacting other claimants like Vietnam, the Philippines, and Taiwan. The militarization of the Spratly Islands by China has heightened tensions in the region and raises concerns for other countries with claims in the area. With the Philippines directly challenges and opposes the Chinese claims as supported by the United States. China considers this area to be a legitimate extension of its territory, claiming historic rights to the South China Sea. With this in mind, new troop deployments and projects are planned as part of a broader push to fortify Pagasa and other strategic features in the area. The government has already earmarked funds this year for several civilian and military projects, including the development of a small airport, spending that will also provide jobs for the local population. Besides defending the island, one of the Philippine forces' objectives on Pagasa is to keep a close watch on Chinese military movements and activities in the area and make sure that China doesn't make any additional unlawful territorial grabs. This comes after China Coast Guard personnel made international headlines in April by briefly unfurling the country's flag and symbolically claiming sovereignty over Sandy Key, a tiny sandbank that lies just over 3 kilometers from Pagasa. China's bold move reinvigorated calls to enhance Pagasa's response capabilities as soon as possible, with some government officials stressing that time is of the essence. A strong Pagasa means the Philippines could checkmate China's advances at the Subi, Mischief, or Johnson Reefs, referring to another of China's man-made islets in the Spratly chain. The island could eventually also serve to project military power and host additional assets, including advanced unmanned systems, as Philippine forces look to take a page from Ukraine on the use of drones. Although the Philippines regularly trains with allied and partner forces, such as those from the United States, Japan, and Australia, no joint activities are currently held on or around Pagasa, part of a concerted effort to avoid exacerbating tensions with the Chinese, according to government officials. While the military presence on Pagasa certainly plays a key role in Manila's push to assert its sovereignty claims, it is only part of its strategy. The island is also the only one in the area with a permanent civilian population, an important element that Manila often highlights to justify its claims. The government has been incentivizing Filipinos to move to the island by offering subsidized food, housing, education, and healthcare, an approach that seems to be working despite Pagasa's remote location some 300 kilometers west of mainland Palawan, which is beyond the Philippines' 200 miles exclusive economic zone. The Philippines based its claims on the legal victory on the 12th of July 2016, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. The Arbitral Tribunal in the South China Sea arbitration between the Republic of the Philippines versus the People's Republic of China, which issued a unanimous award in the disputed waters in the South China Sea, largely favorable to the Philippines, which was rejected by China. To solidify the arbitration award, the Philippines enacted a law on November 2024. The Maritime Zones Act aligns Philippine domestic laws with the 1982 Law of the Sea Convention and the 2016 Arbitral Tribunal ruling. This law defines the Philippines' internal waters, archipelagic waters, territorial sea, contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone, and continental shelf in line with the convention. The Maritime Zones Act primary's objective is to declare the Philippines' maritime zones based on the standards set by UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, clarify the geographical extent of the Philippine maritime domain, and at the same time clarify the legal powers that the Philippines may exercise over. The upcoming law for Philippine Maritime Zone will be the basis for the updated version of the administrative map of the Philippines, which will specifically delineate the KALAYAAN Island Group, Scarborough Shoal, Macclesfield Bank, West Philippine Sea, and Benham Rise region. The Maritime Zones Law uses the archipelagic baselines under the 2009 Philippine Baselines Law as the basis upon which the country's maritime zones are measured. Apart from identifying the Philippine internal waters, the law also defines the archipelagic waters, full entitlement of a 12 nautical miles territorial sea, declaration of a 24 nautical miles contiguous zone from the baselines, and the 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone and continental shelf where the Philippines can exercise sovereign rights and jurisdiction. The Philippines' 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone west of the archipelago will be called as West Philippine Sea. Beyond the 200 nautical miles, it is still officially referred to as the South China Sea. The Department of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines said the law would codify the status and regime of the waters inside the archipelagic baselines and redefine the extent of Philippine territorial sea, including the contiguous zone. The Maritime Zones Law, by delineating and underscoring the maritime zones and boundaries, can act as foundational policy that addresses various institutional roadblocks, advances the Philippines' national interest in terms of the protection, maximization, and sustainability of the marine resources, provides guidance on the rights and entitlements of the Philippines on different maritime zones, and can be utilized to maximize the goals of other relevant maritime laws of the Philippines. All territories of the Philippines shall generate their respective maritime zones in accordance with international law. Therefore, the Philippines exercises sovereignty and jurisdiction over its archipelagic waters and the airspace over defined maritime zone, as well as its seabed and subsoil in accordance with the UNCLOS and other existing laws and treaties. The Philippines Maritime Zones Law will be Manila's formal response to counters the 10-dash line of China's new standard national map published August last year, which claims nearly the entire South China Sea as part of its territory. The area overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of the Philippines and those of Malaysia, Brunei, Vietnam, and Indonesia. The law aims to delineate the outer limits of the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles in the South China Sea. The Philippines may also seek to bypass China and engage in maritime border negotiations with other countries. Additionally, there is a possibility of initiating new international lawsuits on issues such as marine environmental protection in the South China Sea.